like a bird on a tree. I'm just sitting here. I got time. It's clear to see.
Welcome to your restorative yoga asana number 4. So this is the last asana in your restorative series. We're covering most of the restorative poses throughout the 4 classes. And so then you can also start to get, imaginative with how you might support yourself in any pose and maybe make it restorative. The key factors are, of course, remembering that you want to be able to let go completely, let those sensations dissipate fully, and bring in all the supports, the warmth, the darkness, anything that could help turn on that parasympathetic nervous system a little bit more. So prior to a restorative yoga practice, you might work with a mudra. So today I have the number 104. This mudra is Bhairava, number 104, Bhairava. And it's the gesture of Shiva's fearsome aspect. So Shiva is part of yoga philosophy, and if you're interested in what she stands for and who she is in the philosophical world of yoga, then you could look into the additional resources section for some of those books that I have suggested. The core quality is to experience unity. And so this kind of goes along with what we've been working with brahmacharya, aparigraha, letting go, brahmacharya, walking with the divine, and then how we've talked a little bit about how yoga really is this yoking, this coming together, this union. And so this mudra can support you in your yoga practice in invoking that union or experiencing unity. One of the 8 limbs of yoga that we are talking about a little bit now is samadhi. And so samadhi is a limb that where you reach this pure level of consciousness, where you have the physical body, but there's nothing in between. There's no thought. There's no pain necessarily. You are just in this pure state of being. Remember with samadhi that it's not something that can be attained, so you can't just work at it to get it. It's one of those things that you might get little glimpses of as you practice more of your dhyana, your meditation, and your dharana, which is your concentration, your pointed concentration. So I'm going to give you an opportunity today in practice to bring all of that together. And if that all sounds like gibberish, then please reach out in your community so we can clarify a little bit so you have a good understanding of what we're doing here. So today's practice, I do have a new microphone. I've been experiencing microphone issues, so I really appreciate your patience and understanding with me. If that is triggering for you, I understand. I do apologize for that. It is a way that you can continue to work with your own feelings and your own triggers that might come up. And I'm doing my best on my end to fix the situation. So I have done, I might have to do a little voiceover here and there if it starts to cut out. This is the new one, so I'm hoping it won't, and I'm hoping we have a good, solid channel here that's not going to give a lot of feedback. I will suggest the pose today. You know what to do, and then I'll give you just time and space in the pose. I'm not even going to suggest affirmations today. If you have affirmations coming forward, then I want you to, of course, use them. But I want to give you that silence and space to really see if you can practice dhyana, your meditation skills, and your dharana, your pointed concentration skills. So I will be muting that during each pose. So let's look first at the essential oil. And today's essential oil is called Peace, and it's a blend by doTERRA. putting a little bit on. This one comes in the bottle. It's already blended for you with the fractionated coconut oil. So that's called, I think they call them Touch. Their Touch series is already blended with the oil, so you don't need to blend it yourself. It's very earthy, masculine, I find. Kind of spicy. So this oil blend has vetiver, lavender, ylang ylang, frankincense, clary sage, marjoram, labdanum, and spearmint. And so I would never have guessed spearmint, but it's in there. So I'll read from our book, Peace, Reassurance. Peace is all about reassurance on our emotional level in the Essential Emotions book, page 134. So this blend was formulated to assist individuals who lack inner peace. People thrive when they feel connected to the divine. Souls achieve true and lasting peace through connection to this source. Without this true peace, there is a human tendency to try to manufacture peace by controlling one's environment and relationships. Especially when one feels afraid. It is tempting to try to control others because it gives an artificial sense of order and safety. Peace invites individuals to connect to the true source of unending peace and let go of control and excess attachments in order to experience the incredible peace that flows from the divine. It invites individuals to trust in divine goodness and grace. Peace affirms that no amount of control or effort can fill the empty soul. It reminds individuals that only by connecting to the divine will they cultivate lasting peace. So it goes along with where we're at in the program with our brahmacharya, our parigraha, and samadhi, this idea of experiencing pure consciousness, connecting to our divinity. So this one can be used aromatically and also topically. I suggest to apply it over the heart or your throat, and not to be used internally, so not to be taken in your water or anything like that. Good, so that's the oil of the day. If you've got it, then please put it on, lather it up if it feels okay for you. And then we'll practice a little bit of our mudra. I do want to mention that you could also practice pranayama during your restorative practice, as long as it's not too intensive one that takes a lot of work, as well as before, if it is maybe something that like an alternate nostril breathing that brings in a little bit more work and movement, then you could practice that one before. You could always do psychic nostril breathing, alternate nostril breathing, if you're not wanting to bring in the hand movement. So Bhairava Mudra. This is the core quality experiencing unity. I've also brought in a few others just as reminders. So you already know dhyana. So this one can help you connect more to your meditation. So if you want to bring in number 103, dhyana, effortless meditation. I've got yana mudra, which always comes in for me personally. It's a nice, easy one I find to do in any pose. And the core quality is to awaken clear seeing. And then I've also got mandala, which is the one that we've already practiced in the videos. And this one is the core quality to invoke spiritual union. So if you choose a different mudra that you're feeling really fits for you, please practice that now or at any time during. And I will share with you the Bhairava Mudra. So to do this one, you rest your left hand on your lap with the palm facing upward. Rest the back of the right hand onto the left hand. The tips of the thumbs may lightly touch. The hands rest naturally on your lap. Relax your shoulders back and down with your elbows slightly away from your body and your spine naturally aligned. So we'll come into this kind of present moment, setting up for our restorative practice. You might close your eyes or keep them open. And just noticing what's here in the present moment for you. What do you notice? What do you observe? And I'll share with you what this mudra is helpful for. Supporting the experiencing of our true being as freedom and unity. It's also helpful for optimizing the health of all of the systems of the body, with a special focus on the nervous, endocrine, and immune systems. And also helpful for facilitating an experience of inner silence. If you'd like to repeat the affirmation, I'll share it with you now. Resting in inner silence and deep peace, all sense of separation is released. Resting in inner silence and deep peace, all sense of separation is released. Resting in inner silence and deep peace. All sense of separation is released. And I'll give you 1 minute here to explore the mudra and to find peace. And you can let that go as you feel ready. So just releasing in any way that feels good to you. Maybe shoulder rolls, stretch. You might hear some of the background noise here in the studio. I've got reflective ribbon or tape on my windows because it's that time of year when the birds tend to hit the windows and hurt themselves. So by putting that reflective tape on the windows, it helps them avoid doing that. So if you hear that in the background, that is what the noise is. It's quite windy here today, so they're really rattling. Okay, so we're going to come into our first restorative pose, and again, remember you always have options here. If this is feeling like you would prefer to do a legs up or a heart bed or any of the restorative poses we've done in the past prior to this one, or this one just isn't working for you, then please feel free to do that. This one is called prone supported lateral extension. So it's the same type of lateral release that we're looking for, that side release on both sides, except for we're going to be laying on our bellies. So you can see I've got all my props ready to go. So if you need to gather some props, then feel free to do so now. I've got lots of blankets up around the top. You don't need all of them. I'm going to show you a few different options, but if you've got lots, then by all means gather them just in case you need the support. And so this one can be done on the ground. I'm just going to put this in my pocket. Hopefully that will be okay. So I've got a blanket here for a little bit more support on my shoulders, and then you can bring in a head support. So you can either have your head turning side to side, or you can just have it sitting on the third eye. So sometimes it's nice to have that second support just to see if you need more height, or you can always just bring in a block. These ones I don't mind because they're fairly soft, and so it can be nice just to prop up the third eye. So lowering yourself onto your belly, and then you can see that's probably a little too high for me. So I'll move that one. We're going to send the arms up, and then you can send your face one direction. So you might do a little stretch lying, a reverse stretch lying here, where we tuck the toes and then reach through the heel, bringing the top of the toes to the mat just to get a little bit of length in the low back or the spine. And for some people, this might feel too triggering, or you're past your 70% effort. So if that's the case, then there's other lateral stretches that you can do. You can do the gateway lateral release. So I'm going to bring a block in instead and just show you that version as well. So if you have your head, your third eye on the block, that might feel okay. Arms can be straight up, and then you can also bring in a blanket or pillow kind of under the shoulder, kind of in the armpit. If that's feeling like it's still too much, that's feeling a little high for me, so I'm going to bring my blanket down one more level, and I'm going to turn to the side. That's feeling better in my personal body. And then you can just start to let go here. Have your puppy come sit on your head. What are you doing? Maybe take a few minutes here just in this prone position, allowing your body to release, the sensations to dissipate. And then if you are ready, this is feeling okay, then you can start to walk your legs over to one side. So this is kind of the flipped over banana pose that we do, prone version of the lateral release. So legs are over to one corner of the mat, checking in with how that feels. The other thing you can do is put weight on the body, maybe even first. So I've got my sandbag here to put up on my pelvis. And then you can also walk your arms over to the same direction. So you're in that banana shape, but on your belly. Stay heavy through your shoulders and heavy through your pelvis. And then you allow the sensations to dissipate. You might bring in a blanket over the eyes or an eye pillow, something to block out the light. You might hold something in the hands or put support underneath the hands or the arms. You might even feel you want support underneath the ankles. And then you could bring in a little bit of a blanket or support there. And so getting yourself settled. And if the sensations are not dissipating, then you know what to do. Continue to bring in more support. I might actually send a blanket down for my feet. So these can be a little bit awkward to do by yourself, but it is possible. It feels better to have my feet on the blanket rather than the hard floor. So walking your body into that banana shape, finding a place where you'll stay for now for 5 minutes. And so I'll mute the microphone so you can spend 5 minutes with me practicing dhyana and dharana, meditation and pointed concentration. Or maybe you choose to bring in affirmations or pranayama, whatever helps you get the most out of this pose. So I'm slowly unraveling, removing my props, sending my feet first back to center. And then my arms can come down. Sometimes it's nice to kind of help them down. So you might even push yourself up a little bit to bring your arm down. And taking a moment in between. So I'm going to keep my weight on here because we're moving just to the other side. I do want to mention that if you're getting any tingling, numbness, those are sensations that we don't want. So shift your body in a way that your blood flow can still happen, that your nerves aren't responding in that way. So as you're ready, if you want to continue with the prone lateral extension, then you're going to walk your feet to the other side. If not, you can either fast forward or you could practice a different lateral extension. I'm walking my arms up and over now to the right. I have to shift my props a little bit, so I have to shift my puppy a little bit. So I've got my head support, my shoulder support, hand support. And then if you want to bring in a blanket to bring in that level of darkness, you can do that too. So setting up on the other side for another 5 minutes on this side. Remembering you can come out at any time if your body is asking to. You can come out early and you can also stay later. You can stay in these poses for 15 minutes if you choose. So I'll mute my microphone once again for another 5 minutes of release. So you might draw in a long, slow inhale and release out a long, slow exhale. And slowly begin to come back to center, walking the feet back, maybe walking the arms down and then the upper body back. And taking your time to make your way to seated. Removing your props. I like to roll over to one side rather than pushing up after a restorative practice, just because I find it's a little bit more gentle in my body. So you can roll over to one side and then gently press yourself back up to seated. And taking a minute at seated to notice how you feel. So this is kind of what we call in yin yoga the rebound. So how might your body have rebounded or feel differently? What is the echo in your body we speak of quite often? Can you feel the echo of the pose? And because you practiced it, how you might feel differently. Better, worse, the same. And there's no wrong answer. And so you might discern from here where you go. You might decide that's enough for today. Your body's feeling like you've had enough. Or you might decide you want to continue moving your body and stretching it with restorative yoga in all four ways. So if that's the case, then we've done now our lateral release, which is also a little bit of a back bend. So keeping that in mind, I'm going to show you now two versions of a back bend that you can choose to watch or participate in. And so these are two options for you. They're called Supported Little Bridge. So you've done this a little bit already in your classes. However, this one is, of course, more restorative because we're bringing in more supports. So you can set your blanket up, your mat up, however you like, so that you feel comfortable, supported. You could put a blanket out for a brain bed, if that's something that you like to play with. If you've got a hoodie on, then you might just use your hoodie. And for this one, I don't bring in too much head and neck support, because we're lifting the pelvis. So there are lots of options to lift the pelvis. As you've already experienced in the course, we can use a slow-mo ball to put the pelvis underneath. We can use a bolster, remembering that a bolster or a 3-inch or 4-inch block is going to give you more height, so it makes it a more intense back bend. Restorative, we don't necessarily want intense, we want quite the opposite. We want release, we want the dissipation of the sensations. You could use a 3-inch block like that, or even a 2-inch block like this. The other option, if you don't have any of those, that can be quite nice, is if you've got an extra yoga mat, or maybe even if you just want to explore that, you can put it underneath the pelvis. And it's kind of cushy, so it's got a lot of give, which can be really nice. I'm also going to put support around my legs. So this is really a constructive rest pose when we're lifting the pelvis. So it's similar to constructive rest, yet we're putting support underneath the pelvis to bring it to a little bridge. So you can put a prop between the thighs, maybe a ball or a block, depending on what you've got. Tightening the supports so that you can lean out into the strap and also lean into the support. And then as you're ready, laying down onto your back. So you might just take a minute here This is kind of the opposite pose to what we were just doing. So we're allowing the back to now flex a little bit the other direction. And so you might stay here for a couple minutes. Noticing the support that the strap and the prop between the thighs brings in. You can really let the legs go, which allows for those hip flexors, that psoas muscle, to release. And then as you're ready, when you're ready to bring in your support, you want to make sure that you're locking your pada bandha, so a little tug of your toes, a little rooting of the heel, and then allowing the pelvis to come up. Sliding whatever support you've chosen underneath the pelvis, and then releasing the sacrum, so that triangular bone of the low back onto your support. And so if you're feeling like this isn't quite in the right spot, then you might be right. You could shift it around, maybe lower or higher, to find that place that you can really let go of all of those muscles of the hip flexors and the pelvis. Maybe even into your legs, you might feel some release. Your low back or mid back. So this is supported little bridge. And then you can start to make it restorative by bringing in all of your props. So if you've got a hoodie, you might put your hoodie on. If you've got an eye pillow, you could put it over your eyes, maybe a blanket or a bean bag or buckwheat bag on your pelvis, giving a little bit of extra grounding. Maybe you've got some balls that you can put into the hands. And you could even put a blanket on the feet, some weight and support onto the toes. My toes can get cold often, so I'm just going to wrap this blanket over top of them, thinking of how we don't want to feel a lot of sensation. We want to withdraw our senses. We want to practice pratyahara and allow the senses to withdraw. So now 5 minutes here in your supported little bridge, if it's feeling good in your body. I'll mute my microphone. So I'm slowly releasing my eye pillow, letting the light flood back in, giving myself time to adjust. I'll remove my weight from my body, and so you can follow along in your own time. Remembering to reconnect before you start to really lift and move your body from the inside out. So finding your breath in your core, your deep frontline connection. And so I experience a lot of, like I've talked about, my hip pain or my pelvis tension, tightness. And so that can be a really nice one to release all of that. Something too that came up for me is there's a difference. There is a little bit of a tingling that can happen when you feel an energetic flow, kind of one of your nadis, your channels is opening up again because of that fascia releasing. So that can almost give that sensation of like tingles. So that's a different style of tingling than if your nerves are getting cut off. So there is a difference there. They're both a tingling. So if you're experiencing tingling of any sort and you're unsure about that, then please reach out. And then I'm just going to come over to one side. Take a minute here. And pressing up to seated. And then coming to a place where you can notice that echo in your body. A neutral place where your body feels like it can still let go, and you can just observe without any major tension or anything taking you out of your dhyana or your dharana. This practice works so much with the subtle energies of the body. And so you get almost, sometimes I always get kind of blissed out or this feeling of euphoria as the energies start to release and I'm grounded. So my energy is lower. So I'd love to hear about how it's working for you. So there is another bridge pose, and this one is the supported straight-legged bridge. And so this one, you can actually use bolsters. I'm just going to grab a couple of my props that rolled away here. And you want to have the top of your mat supportive for your shoulders and your upper body. So this is a nice heart opener. It's also a back bend, so if you're feeling like you've had enough back bending for today, then just watch and you can come back to this one and use it as a support for you at a later time. So then you're going to line up your bolsters to where your shoulders and your upper body is going to lay on that blanket that I just put down. And then your between the shoulder blades and lower is going to extend out onto the bolsters. So if you don't have bolsters, you can actually do this if you just have one bolster or you just have enough blankets to stack up like one bolster, then you could do it without both bolsters. And you could bring in more blankets or even block support here for the legs. And the idea is that we want to support the entire upper body, or sorry, the entire lower body on the props. And then you'll have to fidget around here to find where your perfect height is, that you can let your shoulders come all the way down to the mat. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of a head and neck pillow. You might put more blankets. So you could start here, just seeing how this feels. If this is too much of a heart opener, then you could lower your blanket or your bolster. You could accordion fold a blanket so that it's a little bit lower. A wider accordion fold, of course, but if you're again having trouble figuring out how to do this, reach out in your community. So you can see my shoulders come to the floor. So if your shoulders are not coming to the floor, you could be too high up on your bolster. And you might just explore here first. My feet are flat on the ground, giving me a little bit of extra support. And I'm just going to see if my sensations dissipate here, because I'm getting quite a bit. Remembering to always stay connected to that center, that power source of your breath, where it keeps you connected, keeps you strong and rooted within your own body. And so if you do feel the sensations dissipate, then you can send the legs out long onto the prop beneath you. And so this also, you might want to put a strap. Actually, I'm just going to roll over to one side here. So you might want to put a strap around your thighs. And this can help that containment of when you're laying on the bolsters. So I'm finding that that is going to be too high in my body. I'm noticing that my sensations were not dissipating enough. So I'm going to lower my bolsters today and do the blanket that I was talking about. So again, you're going to need possibly a few blankets to be able to get the height you're looking for. Maybe even some couch pillows or something like that that could give you a little more height. So I'm stacking up my blankets so they're not quite as high as that bolster. And then my body can lay on them. I'll let my shoulders lay up there. And then for the lower body, I can bring in pillows, stacked blocks with a blanket. Maybe even the 2-inch foam block just to give a little more height. And so the strap can help keep that containment. So this is a supported straight-legged bridge. I've got my weight to put on my body if I choose. If you want more support underneath the feet, you could bring that in. The other option, instead of a strap around the thighs, is to do the blanket wrap that we've talked about in the lower body, so that wrap around the legs. Or maybe even a blanket wrapped and then tied around the upper thighs, just like a strap, but it would give a little bit more of a softer containment than the actual strap. So I'm going to lay down, my shoulders are on the ground. I can move that out of the way now. This is feeling much better in my body. That other version was a little bit too high for me right now. And then you start to bring in your supports. So I've got a ball for my hand, an eye pillow. You can put your brain bed on. And so this is a nice opening for the heart. I feel a little bit of an opening in my pelvis and my hips. It's still this little bit of a back bend. And if this one isn't feeling good in your body, another option is just to go back and do Mountain Brook. And so you've already learned that one. I think we did it in Restorative 3, where you can put something underneath the mid-back. So you've got the heart opener and then support under the knees. And that's a little bit of a lesser stretch sometimes on the body, depending what you choose. So I'll mute my microphone here now. And you can take 5 minutes to explore supported, straight-legged bridge. So you might invite in a long, slow, deep breath. And slowly releasing out of the pose with your own time, your own awareness. Coming off to one side when you're ready. You can remove your prop out of the way and then roll back so that you can allow your body to kind of realign. So I'm just moving the blankets and then I'm rolling back to a regular constructive rest posture. And as you're ready, unraveling. If you had a strap around your legs, and I'll meet you back in seated, where you can notice the echo of the pose. And so again, you might jot something down here as you're noticing the echo in your body. And so we've done a couple back bends. So you might be noticing that you're feeling like you're craving a forward fold, a back flexion rather than extension. So you've got some choices that you've already learned. You've got a child's pose, supported restorative child's pose. You've got the sea turtle as an option for those people especially that don't feel great when they bend their knees, and or seated forward fold. So I'm just going to take a quick seated forward fold, so not a full 5 minutes, but just a couple minutes here to breathe. And sometimes forward folds don't feel good in certain people's bodies, so if you want to skip it, then that's okay too. So I'm just seated on my 2-inch foam block, allowing a little height in my pelvis. My legs are in a gentle V, so they're not out as far as they can go, and just enough to put room for my bolster here. So I can just simply fold forward onto the bolster. And I'll just take a minute or two here in the seated forward fold to let my spine release the opposite direction. Feel free to stay longer if you choose. I'm going to bring in my supports for my hands to hold the balls, and maybe even my hoodie up around for extra parasympathetic nervous system activating. I'm going to put a blanket on the floor so that it's not cold on the back of my hands. And so you've seen a few versions of the seated forward fold options, so finding what works in your body, what brings you support. Maybe you have a chair involved, or maybe you're taking one of the other versions I mentioned. I'll mute my microphone now for 2 minutes. So if you're still in the seated forward fold, then begin to connect to your center to bring you back up, head over heart, heart over pelvis. Taking a few cycles of breath, deep breath there. And as you can see, I've already shifted into constructive rest. Seated forward fold was actually causing my body to have more and more sensation in my hip. So I thought I'd take a gentler version, which is constructive rest. So just unraveling, putting your props aside, and then taking a moment to notice the echo of that pose in your body. Or just maybe practicing dhyana or dharana. Maybe pratyahara. Great, so the last pose I'll show you today is going to be a reclined twist. So your twisting versions, you have the sideline gateway pose with the clock twist, and you also have the mermaid twist as options in restorative. So you can get, like I said, creative here and see what other twisting poses can you do that you could just bring in more support and maybe make it a restorative pose. So a simple reclined twist. My feet are hip-width distance apart. I've got bolsters on either side of me and lots of props so that when I allow my legs to fall to one side, I can actually take, I'm going to put this sandbag on my pelvis, but I can actually take the bolster and allow my leg to fall into it. And then I'm going to take this double folded blanket, so I've got lots of support from it between my thighs, allowing my other leg to fall into that one. You might even find you want more support than that. Maybe your leg's not quite reaching the whole blanket, so I'm bringing an eye pillow in. Letting my legs just settle into a nice, gentle twisting pose here, where I've closed all the gaps between me and the earth. This allows it to be more restorative. If you feel a lot of pressure in the pelvis, you can either take the sandbag off, and you could even double up your blankets or triple them up even on your mat to give you more cushiness. So maybe you decide here you'd like to add your arms on and twist your body the other way. So as I've mentioned before, you have an option of goalpost arms, so bringing the elbows out into a 90-degree angle, and then allowing I've got my other bolster over here, allowing the arm to fall onto a support that feels like it's the right space for you, where you can let the sensations dissipate. So for me, definitely I would need a bolster on this side. My arms just won't go that way. But on my left side, I could probably even do without. So it depends on your own body. You might send your arms out into the shape of a T, so extending them straight out. Maybe onto some blankets that feel nice and cushy. My legs are slowly releasing, so I'm just going to adjust my props a little bit. And then you could gaze towards the opposite side as your legs, taking this restorative twist. And bringing in your support of your brain bed, eye pillow, maybe an extra blanket. So I'm going to bring more blankets in onto my feet for warmth and weight on my body. And then I'm going to cover myself with a blanket as well. So get yourself set up, and then I'll give you 5 minutes with each side in this reclined twist. And then we will close our practice. You can close with your choice of shape in Shavasana. So I'll mute my microphone now. So I'm going to gently draw my head back to center, taking nice, long, slow, deep breaths in. And drawing my arms in and then slowly bringing my knees back up to center, remembering to connect to your core. Maybe realigning the pelvis and taking a moment here at center before moving to the other side. So something I noticed was when I had my eye pillow on and I allowed my head to roll to one side, the eye pillow actually became too heavy. I was starting to feel sensations into my chest and my neck. So we don't want to feel sensations. So those are good cues or clues that there's something off, that you need to adjust. So remembering to let those sensations dissipate. So I'm just taking a little bit of movement here before I set up on the other side. I'm also going to put a little bit of a more blanket underneath my pelvis because I'm finding that it's feeling a little bit hard on my pelvis on this blanket here. So you can take your time to get set up on the other side. I'll do the same, and I'll give you 5 minutes once you are settled to explore stillness. I'll mute my microphone now. I'll give you about 7 minutes just to make sure you have a couple minutes to get set up. Inviting in a long, slow, deep breath. And gently bringing your head back to center if it was turned. Maybe letting some light in if you had a blanket or darkness. And taking your time to unravel. Lingering back at center. So this time I used a bolster between my thighs and on the side of my leg. I don't know if you noticed that, but just wanted to point that out because each side will be different. And so one side you might feel supported, and then on the other side you might need to bring in bigger props or bigger supports. And so just noticing here how you feel after practicing that twist, that restorative twist, maybe jotting down anything that came up for you, sharing it in the community if you had any questions or concerns. Or maybe just for your own self-study, your own journaling experience. And as you're ready, you can start to move into your version of your final resting posture or corpse pose. So I always suggest Shavasana. There's the side lying that you learned on the last module, or you can do your regular supported Shavasana restorative version with lots of props. You might choose to do a legs up version, bringing in a little bit of the blood flow from your feet up towards your heart and your head. Or you could do a heart bed, maybe propping up on some blocks and a bolster, making a nice comfy, cozy heart bed for your final resting posture. So go ahead and get that set up in your time, and I will meet you for closing. So taking your time to settle, to get yourself comfortable. I'm going to close in seated, of course, but I do recommend that you take a Shavasana. And if you choose to stay seated, that is okay as well, definitely. You could take the mudra if you're in seated, the Bhairava Mudra. And this mudra helps to invoke the experience of unity. I'll give you one moment here of silence and space to settle in, to let go in your Shavasana, your corpse pose. And I'll share with you this reading. And it's called A Close to My Yoga Practice. Letting go, I whisper. It's okay to release. Letting go, my body says, thank you, back to me. Letting go, my mind settles, finding a silence so sweet. Letting go, I feel my body welcoming in peace. This feeling of centeredness, grounded and ease, becomes available anytime I'm willing to let go and welcome release. And I encourage you to stay here maybe for 5 minutes, just like you did in the rest of your restorative poses. Just really allowing for that release to settle in. And if you feel ready to close now, then go ahead and make your way to seated. I'm taking Anjali Mudra, this mudra that invites us to recognize divinity in others, the same divinity that is within. And in a sense, to salute each other. And I salute you. I recognize you. I am grateful for you. And you might bow your head towards your hands. I'm really feeling a desire to press my thumbs into my heart space and my heart back into my thumbs. This union of energy. You might raise your head up and follow and repeat with me if you choose. Thumbs to your third eye, think kind thoughts. Thumbs to your lips, speak kind words. And thumbs to your heart, do kind things. And once again, thank you so much for practicing, sharing your practice with me.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see.